Good morning, students. I once again welcome you all to our YouTube channel Bharat Bharati Public School Godda. And today I am continuing where I had left the last time, the chapter of yours, that is Forest Society and Colonialism. Before going into the detail, let me give you the recap of the first part. Was that when Britishers came to India, we had seen in that module of ours that because of certain policies adopted by the Britishers, deforestation increased many times in India. Now today we will try to see, because for certain purpose Britishers were especially wanting the forest in India to be cut. And the major part of that one was actually the introduction of the commercial forestry. There also we have studied about that in commercial forestry, quite obvious as per the term. Anything that is very especially for trading purpose with the motive of earning profit, commercial. And forestry is the act of or a wide range of activities in the forest related to forest or connected to forest. Here, the previous section we had studied that it was the Britishers who introduced plantation agriculture in India, and because of that plantation crops, or in order to grow plantation crops, jungles in India were being cleared on a very large scale. Now the very important part, for a particular things the Britishers wanted the jungles to be cut. We had discussed, if you can recall, we had discussed that they wanted the oak tree, they wanted teak tree or the teak wood for the manufacture of their boats and ships. They wanted hardwood durable trees for sleepers, for their expansion of railways, for the construction or the manufacturing of boats in order to maintain the class and quality of their Royal Navy. And for all these purposes, they wanted the forest to be cut. Quite obvious and plus very easy for them, because we had studied in our previous classes that after the victory in the Battle of Plassey in 1757, Britishers literally opened up their political door for themselves in India. And their victory in the Battle of Buxar in 1764 had asserted their authority in India. To put it simple, they became the political master of India. Even in the simplest term, they became the ruler of India. And for a ruler, it is very, very easy to pass legislation, especially if the ruler is non-democratic in nature. They need not to take the consent and agreement of the parliament. So they, at their will and whims, were passing legislations and then controlling the forest. And that is what this chapter is all about. I had already told that this chapter, finally in the last module, we will be seeing certain tribal revolts. And wherever in India, in standard 8 days, you had studied about Munda revolt, you had studied about Santhal revolt, Santhal tribe inhabiting in Santhal Pargana, when the Britishers controlled the forest through their representatives, whom the tribals were calling Dikus. Dikus means outsiders, who all comprise Dikus, moneylenders, landlords, these all people who came and claimed that the forest is their right, and thereby pushed the tribals on the fringes of the forest and controlled the entire forest resources for themselves. That had made the lives of the tribals literally impossible to survive. In this chapter we will study how tribals are dependent on forest for their variety of purposes. But before going into that one, we will be first of all seeing that they need the forest for commercial purposes. Who? Britishers. They wanted the particular species of trees to be preserved and rest to be cut down. damn care about, because those all other species were not that much useful for them. But one thing is for sure, in order to grow the trees, in order to take the timber, they need the complete control over the forest in India. For that one, they had called one German forest expert. His name was Dietrich Brandis. This Dietrich Brandis was the first forest inspector general in India. Inspector General in India, this Dietrich Brandis. And today we have many forest acts. We have Imperial Research Institute of Forest in Dehradun. All is the born child of this person. Okay. Now when he came to India, Mr. Dietrich Brandis, he first of all suggested that we need to teach the Indians in the art of forestry so that they can grow the forest as well as cut the forest in rotation. Sounding very, very logical, but actually it was completely drenched in and loaded with selfish motive. He had introduced, in order to control the forest, he had made one legislation, because unless if the forest is been left open for the tribals for whatever their purposes, they would have been cutting as per their requirement, because forest for the tribals, they considered it as their traditional right to live in the forest, to use the forest product. And in addition to that one, they were taking very good care of the forest, because they always considered forest as their home. So, but that this emotional attachment factor was missing in the case of Britishers. They were only here to collect the forest products, that to a particular type of the product in plenty for their purpose. And after that, caring damn about whether the forest is getting destroyed or whatever happens to it. But they wanted forest to be preserved also, but this preservation is also once again loaded with selfish motive, because I want the particular variety of products from the forest, a particular species of timber from the forest. If I keep on cutting, fine, there were a plenty of a particular variety, say teak or sal, were found in the jungles of Himalaya, in the Himalayan region of India, in the Himalayan region. But every plenty has also certain limitations. You have a plenty of resources of some kind, but if you keep on using it without preserving or conserving them, at one point of time you will be finding that the things have started reducing and finishing also. So that is why, with this purpose, they wanted to grow their trees, and they don't want others, that is tribals, to take use of those forest things or forest materials. For that one, they need to control over the forest. And how can you make control over anything without having any legislation? So as a result, they had passed one act that was called Indian Forest Act, that was passed in the year 1865. In 1864, 1 year before, he had made one Indian Forest Service on the recommendation of Dietrich Brandis. A forest service was been established in India. Imperial Forest Research Institute was set up in Dehradun for giving the knowledge and training to the people of India and others in the art of forestry. Okay. Now, there they taught social forestry. And sorry, not social forestry, that is another topic. They taught scientific forestry. Which after independence, many scholars, many experts and environmentalists told that there was nothing scientific in the scientific forestry. What happened? In the name of scientific forestry, what they did actually, so in the name of scientific forestry, what they were doing, they were cutting all other varieties. There were plenty of species and varieties of the trees found in jungles. They were first of all cutting all those varieties that were of no use for them, clearing the jungle, and in its place they were planting a particular type of trees, and that too in the straight rows, and these particular species, that we have been required by them, say oak, teak, sal, etc. Okay, fine. So first, why in the straight row? That is what also sometimes referred to as the plantation. Why? So that it can once again be cut in the future for their purpose conveniently. Now, being the student of social science or science, you better know, in our environment, in our ecosystem, each and everything is very important. Each and everything. Forget about living organisms. Even the non-living, that is the physical and non-physical environment, comprising together, interrelated and interconnected with each other as well as interdependent on each other, is forming our ecosystem. To put it simple once again, anything and everything that is been found in our ecosystem have their role to play. So if you are telling or somebody is telling that clear entire other species and grow a particular type of a tree or a timber, and that is scientific, is actually not scientific. So many claims, and this is also one question also, that what was scientific forestry? So that clearing of the jungle and planting a certain species in a straight row, was that scientific tree so that it can once again be cut in future? And the tail part of this question sometimes has been asked, that was scientific forestry really scientific in nature? And answer comes a big no. Why? Because in scientific, anything scientific, every other species, whether microscopic or macroscopic, everything have their role to play. So if there is an abundance of a particular thing and there is a deficiency of others, you may call it a scarcity, you may call it by any other name, but it cannot be called as scientific in any sense. So the scientific forestry that was being taught in these institutes as the part of the training was actually not scientific. That is why I have told it was all loaded with the selfish motive. And motive is what? That they first of all cleared the all jungles or the different species, and in its place they had created a particular area of their species which was nowhere scientific. Now here lies in the problem. The species that have been cleared have their role to play, and they were very specific so far the requirements of these tribals were concerned, and that we will be studying later part. So first of all, we have been coming how the forest we have been controlled. I will be completing this particular chapter in 3 sections. The first section we had studied, that is the first part, what is deforestation and why deforestation increased sharply during the British period. That particular section we have discussed. Now we are discussing, in order to control the forest of India, what steps we have been taken or what legislations we have been passed or made by the Britishers to take a complete control on Indian forest. And third part that we will be studying, that what happened to the tribals because of this Forest Act, or what were the repercussions of that one, and why they rose to rebellion. That is, certain tribes, if you could see my introductory class of the previous video on this topic, we have talked about the Bastar revolt, that is the Dhruva tribe, and the Java revolt we will be studying in context to Indonesia. However, the colonial masters, they are changed. That was the Dutch. Here the colonial master was British, but the policy more or less were the same. So Indian Forest Act was being met in 1865. Now changed, amended them twice, and one, first of all, Forest Act was being made, and in 2 times it was been amended. One was there in 1868 first amendment, and second was in 1927. And this 1927 amendment was even more specific here in that context, is what? That as per the amendment in the Forest Act of 1865, the amendment that was been made in 1927, as per this amendment, the forest area in India we have been categorized under three categories or classified under three categories. One was the reserved forest, second was the protected forest, and third was the village forest. And here is lying the problem. Earlier what happened, and you better know, we have studied also earlier in standard 8 days, tribal living in the forest is their home. And if in your home, in your house, you have been making a free movement, no matter which room you want to go, whether it is a bedroom or a drawing room or a living room or a kitchen, wherever you go with, at a certain point of time, at a different point of time for a different purpose, nobody is there to block you. No reservations we have been there. But suppose, bring in your imagination that your free movement in the house, in different rooms are very indispensable for smoothness of your living. Why? Because kitchen room is also important for making of the food, dining is important for dining those food, bedding is also important for taking the, means each and every is important at a different point of time for different purposes, and collectively they are allowing our life to go smoothly and to survive properly. But suppose somebody has been making the law and making certain room reserved for somebody, that a kitchen room can only is reserved for X and the Y cannot go there, or those who are going into the kitchen cannot come into the dining room, those who are using the bedroom cannot go to the X room. What will happen? The entire system will collapse and crumble, and the life would be literally very difficult. And that exactly happened. Before the coming of the Britishers, or before the passing of this Forest Act, what happened? That tribals were being using the forest at their will and discretion for whatever the purposes they wanted. They were practicing, so you'd have studied that what were the means of survival for the tribals. Hunting and gathering, okay, that is gathering of the food and berries and fruits, etc., and hunting of the wild animals, smaller animals, some petty animals for their purposes, plus some of them were been practicing shifting cultivation, some of them were been collecting the forest produce, and then like that of the wild honey, like that of the tusk of the elephant, there were many certain animals, the organs of the animals were being sold outside. Rather, the barter system was there at one point, so the merchants from the towns and cities were coming into the forest and they were exchanging the product from the food grains, that is forest products, and thereby they were surviving. But one thing is been common in all these three things, whether you are a hunter or a gatherer, which the tribals were, hunter-gatherer, gathering of the food or hunting of animals, or you are practicing shifting cultivation, or you were collecting forest produce and to be exchanged from the town-based merchants. One thing is being common in all these three types of your lifestyle is actually the free movement. You cannot print an invitation card and give to the animals that you please come to my doorsteps and I will hunt you. It cannot be possible. So you need to go in search of animals to hunt them. You need to move from place to place in order to gather the fruits and berries of your requirement. In shifting cultivation, as the name itself suggests, we will be discussing in the third part about the detail of the shifting cultivation. That is an independent question also. So, but the word here is suggesting is what, that for the cultivation of this type, you need to shift your activities from one place to another. And in order to collect the forest produce, you have to roam freely inside the forest or within the forest to collect the forest produce. And all these freedom of movement, just contradiction is the reservation. The reservation what suggests is what? Now that particular area has been reserved. What does it mean actually? It means that you cannot go into that region because that is now reserved by the forest department unless forest department is not permitting you. And that permission was either given rarely or given never. Okay. So this reservation, best of the forest, first of all, we have been kept reserved. What does it mean, the best of the forest? Best of the forest is what type of forest? Where different species of trees and plants are being found in plenty. And the best of the forest where the quantity and quality are diverse and abundant. That particular area was being kept reserved by the forest department. So one very area that was easily accessible and used by the tribals in the past, after the enactment of Forest Act or amendment of the Forest Act, that a very large portion of the forest was being kept reserved. In other words, we have been out of the reach for the tribals. Protected one, as the name once again suggests, this is a protected area which you cannot go there, or you can only go there when a specific permission is granted to you. Then you can go there because that is a protected area and we cannot afford it to use it freely because we need to protect them from further being degraded. So the only area there you can use where the village forest. So it was actually a village. Can you find a forest in the village? Just bring in your imagination many villages or some of the villages that you also either living in or had visited. It is if a people started living in there in a small settlement, that is called village. So if the people started settling down, the forest would automatically disappear. It means that the village forest was actually the forest but only for the namesake. So this had all endangered the lives of the tribals living in the forest, this Forest Act. And in the next final conclusive portion that we will study is that how the lives of the people got endangered, especially the tribals, because it became very difficult after the passing of the Forest Act, and then they rose to rebellion. Because revolt is something, is not an overnight phenomenon. If you are not happy with me, this is a complete order. Immediately people don't revolt, because the word revolt is against the system, and nobody goes against the system unless they are forced to go against them. If you have, suppose I am a system, I am representing a system, I am not an individual, I am representing a system, and being the representative of the system, if you have been wishing me good morning, you are obeying me, you are actually not obeying an individual, you are obeying one system. Suppose I have been given some power, that Britishers acquired that one in the case of Forest Act, or they have made the power. Now, if I start using the power under the limit, that is good for the welfare of the people. But if I start misusing the power, what will happen? This is what the cycle is. This is what the stages are. What? First of all, you would complain against me. You are not going to revolt against me immediately. Suppose I am a teacher of your class and for no reason I am picking XYZ from the class and telling him or her get out of the class. Now, without any reason, if somebody is being told to get out of the class, the two things may happen. A person may, or the student may get out of the class silently, or may start arguing with the teacher, why sir, why should I go? Please tell me the reason of sending me out. Now the two possible replies has been possible on the part of the teacher. How dare you to make argument with me? I have given you the command, get out of the class. This is one obvious one. Why? Because a teacher at that point of time is supposed to be loaded with the extra power. Okay. So he is what doing? He is misusing the power, because being a student you have the right to know the reason of either the award or the punishment. Okay. But then suppose I haven't, that is what the situation I am giving it and trying to narrate it is what the situation is, that I am misusing the power and not giving you the reason and unnecessarily put you out of the class. What will you do in that case? Of course, you will be just going out of the class because you don't have the option at that point of time. But while going back, after going to the home, you may complain the incident with your parent. You are still not revolting against me. Now the complaint against me will be first of all once again be put up before the principal or the higher authority in the school. Now if the complaint is unheard, not entertained, neither the principal nor the higher authority, and taken the side of the teacher who had already committed wrong, in that case what will happen? Then you will be coming together with somebody and then protest that this type of action is not justified. If I keep on repeating the same mistake time and again, then the complaint of yours will convert into protest. If the protest is also not working properly, then the people would be revolting in order to change the system. Okay, that is what so revolt is the final part, which requires a lot of planning, lot of support, lot of courage, because you are revolting not against one individual, revolting against the British authority, if not doing that one. And when you are revolting, when there is a situation of do or die, if you are not revolting now, you will be dying either. Because reservation of forest has endangered your life. You cannot go there to hunt the animal. You cannot go there to gather your food. You cannot go there to practice agriculture. You cannot go there to collect your forest produce. So overall, your life is endangered. How can you survive? These were the certain things on which your survivals were dependent. So when it is a matter of if you are being taking one-to-one bout against the Britishers, BOUT, bout is another fight word, okay? So against the Britishers, the chances of you being defeated may be killed also. But that is what the do or die situation. If you are staying in the home and doing nothing, you will be either dying out of hunger. If you are coming and revolting against the Britishers, you may be killed, but you may be victorious also. So in this extreme situation, the people revolts, and that actually extreme situation arose before the tribals. That is what the next part we will be discussing about, and then the certain tribal revolts, and then after that this chapter will be concluded. Thank you very much. Till then, take care. Bye.